Hi, my name is Renaldi Erix Ardiansyah. I'm a student of Communication Studies at the 17 Agustus University in Surabaya. It has been more than a year since the first case registered on March 2, 2020, the COVID-19 virus hit Indonesia. This is when changing the world order and habits of society as one of the efforts to minimize the gain of the spread of COVID-19 in Indonesia. The world government and the world community began to minimize activity outside the home. Activities that call gather a lot of people and began to get used to doing activities inside the house. So this change or order and habit in all aspects of life, especially the education aspect. The education aspect is one of the topics that is often discussed during the current pandemic because the COVID-19 virus and effort to minimize the spread of the COVID-19 virus from the several policies that stated often pros and cons from the community. During the current pandemic, offline learning activities are very risky, so this has prompted the government to change the learning system that was originally able to be done offline to be online, or what we usually call online learning. Online learning is a learning system that is carried out online was implementation is carried out by utilizing platform available on mobile device. So this add to the facilities needed by the community so that the can continue to carry out this online learning. These facilities are in the form of IT devices as gadget or laptop for people with middle to lower economy level or lower level of economy. This can clearly be an obstacle in itself. The reason is to be able to do IT and recognize a lot of money, especially in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. As currently the economic condition in Indonesia is also getting worse. In addition to be able to simply and expedite the online learning process, a strong network is also needed for people who are in the beginning areas or place with weak network in the city. This can also be an obstacle in itself. In addition, in carrying out online learning, it is also necessary to master and understanding of IT. According to data from the International Telecommunication Unit I2 and the Central Bureau of Statistics (BBS), only 40% of the Indonesia population are internet user. So from the data above it, so that there are still many Indonesian people who have not become internet user. This might be due to the disparity or gap in the provision of ICT infrastructure in an area with other region. There are still many people who do not know IT, or also because of the problem of social inequality. The lack of effectiveness of online learning is often felt by the community. The reason is that while online learning, the space for movement between one student and another or between student and teacher is very limited. Student cannot really discuss or ask question about the material presentation, such as offline or face-to-face learning, not to mention the addition addition of several obstacles such as an unstable network, lack of mastery of understanding technology from both student and teacher. As a student, I also felt this way therefore when asked about whether I prefer online or offline learning, I actually prefer offline learning because in my opinion, online learning is very less effective for me. I often often can understand the lesson given this is often due to the weak intensity of my network, whether it's due to weather factor or geographical factor, so that my learning process is grouped and not optimal. In addition, on the assessment side, the assessment given in online learning are also more than during offline learning. Plus, there are some group assessment that often make me confused. The reason is that in completing this group steps, I need to unity several perceptions that are clearly different between member. Geographical factor and are the main obstacle for me in unifying the different perception. The reason is that if the learning is offline, I can work directly with my group member and discuss is together directly, so that we get the inspiration, so that the solution becomes easier. In addition, I think online learning of the creates a negative stigma for me. I am often hit by feeling of laziness. This my aris due to my boredom during learning that is only done at home, or it might also be due to the absence of direct interaction with student. With being it all, in fact, both online and offline learning have their own advantages and disadvantages. With online learning, we can further minimize or expand the reason is that with online learning, teacher usually give us introduction to collect assessment by are only in the form of short file, which of course can minimize or expenditure. We no longer need to print or make your text hard file. In addition, for student whose domicile is far from the place of education, the no longer need to rent a place for them to live while studying there. In addition, with online learning, we can also be required to understand the IT world, especially not the have entered the industrial era for the no for the zero, where the role of IT is very much needed. In order to minimize the spread of the COVID-19 virus, and so that the education process in Indonesia can also continue there, I think online learning might be the best solution. But what I note that the government must also be able to improve its ICT infrastructure. There is a need for financial assistance to people with lower middle economies or people with low income economies, and the role of the community in wanting to learn to understand IT. But if you feel you are not ready, or there are still many obstacles during this online learning. Maybe offline learning is also the best solution, but what not that you still need to pay attention to health protocol and need to pay attention to the quantity of students considering the COVID-19 pandemic is still continuing. Tips from me so that your learning process can still be optimal during this pandemic, namely: 1. Always give positive affirmation to yourself. 2. Make notes the priorities care regarding the test to be done, so that later it can run systematically. 3. Make a summary of the learning material. 4. Don't be C2S. Number 5. Don't forget to always pray. Conclusion: between online and offline learning would have their own advantages and disadvantages over we as human, of course, while always on the wish and hope that this pandemic in Indonesia will end soon, so that we can learn optimally and maximally again. To be able to end this pandemic, there is a need for the role of the government and the community to always obey health protocol and carry out 5M, namely: number 1, wearing a mask. Number 2, wash your hand with soap and running water. Number 3, keep your distance. Number 4, stay away from crowd, as well as number 5, limiting mobilization and interaction.